Welcome to DreamSpeak. We want to thank our listeners in Mexico City, Alcobendas, Spain, Salt Lake City, Cortez, Colorado, and Bellflower, California. We couldn't do it without you.
Hi, dreamers. Thank you for learning with us today on DreamSpeak. I'm Rica.
And I'm Thomas.
And this is the podcast about dreams that teaches you a complete system to help you listen to your dreams and get the guidance they're providing you every day.
Have you ever had a dream that just felt different? Where everyone's clothes look old-fashioned? Where everyone around you was speaking a foreign language, but you could still understand? Symbolic dreams are not the only experiences that you have at night. Today, Rica shares a remarkable dream from another time and place. Rica, you've had a very interesting dream, and you think it might have had something to do with past lives. Lay it out for us.
Well, it was interesting in that it was a different sort of dream, not the kind of dream that I usually have, which a majority of our dreams are usually message dreams. That's what we call them. And occasionally I'll dream a past life dream, but this was very specific and something that I wasn't aware of that I had to look up after when I listened to the dream to check on the authenticity of it.
So I'm really curious now. Tell us about the dream.
So the dreams seemed to be taking place in modern times, but it seemed to be showing me a memory from another time. So what it was is this man was giving me a recipe to put figs in an amphora, which is a clay jar that was used in some other, cultures for storing foods, I guess, and maybe fermenting foods. And apparently, after looking this up, they have also been used for making wines, and figs have been used for making wines. So this man was giving me this very detailed recipe about putting figs in this amphora and telling me about the other things that you would put in, like oil and spices and like salt and whatever else you needed. The oil, I don't think you'd use oil for making wine, so maybe it was also for making something else. I don't know.
Yeah, well, your quick research indicated that it was also done to make things that are more like pickled things, fermented things. Oil could have been used to make something more savory.
Yeah. So there really wasn't that much to the dream. I was listening very intently to what he was telling me, but I wasn't writing it down. But then he gave me a piece of paper that had basically the outline of the recipe, and I was really glad about that because I wasn't sure that I would be able to remember it all. But I knew it was in modern times because then he wanted me to watch his daughter, and there was something about a TV, maybe watching TV. So I knew that this was not taking place in the past, but in the current. But it was a memory of how to do this, something maybe I had done hundreds or thousands of years ago in some other life. So that's why I thought it was unique, different, because it was such a detailed memory of something that I wouldn't really know about now. I do buy figs and use figs to make, like
Energy bars.
Yeah. I use it as a sweetener, a more natural sweetener than adding sugar. So even in this life, I'm very interested in making my own food. I always look up ingredients and I try and recreate things. And I like to do crafty things in the kitchen.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
So in episode 4 of this podcast, we talked about the type of dreams, the types of nighttime experiences that people can have. And having past life memories is definitely distinct from what we call symbolic dreams. And this is not symbolic in that sense. You were getting information that came from an earlier time that's connected to some sort of past life for you. But I think we might be able to use some of the principles of symbolic dream interpretation to help us understand the meaning of this incident better, because as far as you know right now, you can't really think of any reason why this would surface at this time.
Not really. Mm-mm.
Okay. So one of the things that we can do is we can talk about the real meaning or the real associations that you have with figs. So why don't we talk a little bit about experiences you've had with figs in the past and why figs are important to you?
Well, I've had some experiences with figs. I'm not sure how relevant it is, but
All relevant.
the house that when I first met you, there were 2 gigantic fig trees. This was in Dallas. And
That's where I lived.
yeah, where you lived. And I remember one year we collected all the figs and we had about 25 pounds of figs and we had to process them. We mostly just froze them because we ate smoothies for breakfast and we found out that they did great in smoothies. So you can only eat so many fresh figs before they start to go bad. So we had to freeze a lot of them. But that was a big fig event. in
We
real life.
also worked for hours over the figs and we canned a lot of fig products.
We did. We made chutney and jam and all sorts of things. Nothing like wine, though. No fig wine or anything like that. But the year before, I think that the reason we had this huge fig harvest is that the year before I had done some severe pruning, right, on those trees. Because I used to be a landscaper, and so I love to keep plants in good shape and the way they're supposed to be because they were way overgrown. And then that just made for this abundant harvest.
So you literally just stated why this might have surfaced right now.
Yeah. Yeah, you might be right.
So where are you pruning back in your waking life right now?
Well, I have been really feeling a need to go through all of our stuff. And we just went through our books last weekend and got a couple of boxes of books to get rid of and just taking stock of, you know, that, what is it called? The Marie Kondo thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, she always just asks, does this spark joy?
Yeah.
Does this spark joy?
Does this bring you joy? So I'm looking at things and seeing if they bring me joy and what I want to keep and what I don't want to keep and what I want to add possibly to my life.
What are you adding right now?
I'm learning how to play guitar.
Which is a huge deal because you are a really talented musician and you're extremely experienced. How many years roughly have you been playing the piano?
Well, 50, almost 60.
Right. More than 50 years of continuous piano playing. It's come and gone a little bit, but it's really been a meaningful, important part of your life for basically your entire lifespan.
Right.
And here you are deciding to learn another instrument.
Well, I saw that dusty guitar on the shelf and I'm like, well, this is sad. Thomas isn't playing his guitar. Maybe I should.
Well, I think that that's amazing. But I mean, it really does represent a turning point. It's important that we focus on this, right? 60 years of one instrument, and then all of a sudden it's time to learn another one.
Well, I've learned other instruments like drums
And
and the harmonium.
the gong. Although the harmonium is almost identical to piano, really. It's just a little different. But you've learned how to play the gong. Yeah, you have. Nonetheless, this feels different.
So you think these are related? My past life dream about figs and playing the guitar and
And decluttering,
yeah.
yes, it's all part of one inner process. So where else are you pruning back? You've been talking about the ways that you're making material decisions about your material life. How are you making different decisions within your psyche?
Oh, well, that's a huge question.
This show tackles huge questions. Welcome to Dream Speak.
Well, I have been, reading a lot of books, and currently I'm reading the Bill Plotkin book on soul initiation. And I just read a book about Jung and sort of a summary of his beliefs. And I just wanted to sort of cement that and understand that better, his philosophy, because I think is very much aligned with what we believe in Dream Speak. And I think he was brilliant. And
You're brilliant.
you're brilliant.
And you're pretty.
You're funny. So,
No, but really, seriously, you are brilliant. And so do you think that you may be reaching for more of your own potential right now?
yeah, I'm really looking into my own psyche and who I want to be. And I think we go through phases in life where we reassess, like we may go on for a while being a certain way and then you need to make a change.
And that's the pruning.
Yeah, right. What doesn't serve any longer.
What doesn't serve your growth
Right.
in particular.
Hmm.
And then comes bursting forth all of this abundance.
Yeah.
right? So you're tapping into that lived experience.
Yeah, and I just read a bunch of books by Dolores Cannon, and her books are all about other lives that people have had, and they through hypnosis they tap into. And so I've been thinking about other lives a lot and how it all connects to this life, because I do believe that they're all connected and possibly they're all happening all at once, and each life affects all the other lives.
So you remember in the movie Cloud Atlas that was about past lives?
Of course.
Do you remember how the main character, I believe it was, had a comet-shaped birthmark and it kept
Yeah.
being on their body?
Yeah.
Remember that?
In all the different forms.
Maybe figs are your comet birthmark. Maybe you're obsessed with figs.
They are a wonderful food. Love figs.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
I completely agree. And so I know this seems completely ridiculous, but maybe it's not as ridiculous as it seems because important food crops have been important for a very long time. And maybe you've loved figs for thousands of years.
Maybe.
Maybe you have all sorts of positive memories with figs. And maybe you use them in some of your most creative, healthy recipes because you have this special love for them.
Yeah, I have a big jar of dried figs. I
Mm-hmm.
need to do something with them.
Yeah, I guess you do.
Yep.
So we just found a couple of interesting details about your past life memory concord with history.
Yeah. We just did a quick little search and found that, I don't know if I mentioned before, but in the dream, the amphora were actually buried underground. And I found that that was a process that was used in several cultures. It said in, let's see, was it in ancient Rome or was it the one in ancient Portugal?
I'm going to
Oh, yeah.
guarantee you right now, probably they all did this.
Okay. Well, it said in ancient Portugal, this was 2000 BCE, that they used these pots and they would put olive oil on top to prevent oxidation. And so I was curious, like, if you're making wine, why would there be oil in there?
And now it was true. It didn't make any sense to your conscious mind, but you were shown that much detail.
Yeah, but it said ancient Romans, Georgians, there were
In the Chinese.
Chinese, 6000 BCE. A lot of cultures use these to make wine.
Mm-hmm. And maybe other things too. But the point is, it's a very old tradition and something that went on for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so you must have participated in it.
Yeah, I probably did that.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yes, very fun. So we thought we'd just close by taking a few minutes to help you listeners to distinguish between symbolic dreams that are meant for interpretation and past life memories surfacing while you're asleep. So the key word here is probably detail. You can really see how a lot of detail was conveyed. And even in a vivid dream, a lot of times the focus is not on details like this and process.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big giveaway that you're not having a symbolic dream if there's a big focus on process and steps. And this ingredient is like this, and we use that for this, and that's just not characteristic of the way that we dream when we're dreaming symbolically.
Yeah, usually that's true. Although we did bring in the symbolic relevance to my current life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only real overlap there was that when you interpret a dream symbol, you really need to pay attention to its personal significance, which adopts essentially any life experiences you've had with that object, that thing, that place. Dreams are always all-encompassing in that way. There's really no meanings that are excluded. It's just certain meanings might be emphasized, like different strings on an instrument. And so the same logic applies to looking at your past life experiences that might surface, which is think about your life now and think about your relationship to those things. And in your case, this past life memory is centered on material culture. So we just needed to think about the actual material, the objects, the things.
Mm-hmm. And I think maybe one reason I had this dream now is because I've been thinking about past lives or other lives. And sometimes it's just nice to be reminded that I am not making this up, that
Yes.
what I believe, what I've read, what I've studied, there is a basis for it. And so sometimes it's just nice to get those little nods.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's a great observation. And then another thing is that I just wanted to share a little bit about how when we step back and reflect on the philosophy of dreaming, that you can really see evidence that like does attract like. That's kind of a principle in a lot of esoteric religious traditions. As your thoughts are, so your life will be, is another way of saying that. But the point here is, as a practical technique for having a richer relationship with your nighttime life, if you want to have memories of your past lives, take some books out of the library and start reading high quality books about reincarnation and past lives. That is very likely to help you have those experiences while you're asleep.
Mm-hmm. And I did just spend the last several months reading Dolores Cannon's books.
Yep. And the exact same thing happened when you got really fascinated with lucid dreaming. You
Yeah.
found,
I started having lucid dreams all the time when I was reading a book about lucid dreaming.
what was the title and the author of that book?
Stephen LaBarge. And
What is that book called? It's called Exploring the World of Lucid Dreaming. And you, being the way that you are, you read a book that's written by an expert about lucid dreaming, you start lucid dreaming. So it's a great technique. If you want to expand your vocabulary of nighttime experiences, think about what resonates with you and then start reading about that subject matter. Thank you for joining us today on DreamSpeak, and we hope to learn with you soon on another episode.
You can find this podcast on all popular streaming services. Email us a dream today at contact@dreamspeak.us. Check out our YouTube channel for a free introductory dream course. Connect with DreamSpeak for even more learning. Our socials are in the description. Our theme music was composed by me, Rica. This podcast does not constitute medical advice. If you have concerns about your well-being, talk to your doctor or a mental health professional.